What's going on, Knicks family? It's your boy, UnclefOOlio, and I'm back with another episode of the Kontroversy, ladies and gentlemen. As always, these episodes are sponsored by Nothing But Knicks. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit that notification bell to be notified anytime we go live. Pre-game coverage, post-game coverage, shoot-around videos, Coach's Corner videos, Knicks and Bruises videos, Queens Court videos, NBA report. We have it all for you right here on Nothing But Knicks. Before I introduce today's special guest, what I'm going to do is give a big condolences to the family of Lance Riddick. As some of you know, famous actor from The Wire. He played Cedric Daniels on The Wire. Lieutenant Daniels, Colonel Daniels, phenomenal actor. So I just want to spread my condolences to him, his family, and to The Wire's extended family. I'm a huge Wire fan. It's probably my favorite show of all time. Salute to Julito McCullum. And just, point that out. Rest in peace, Lance. You definitely will be missed. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I have a special guest here with me today. He is from the Because We Are podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Check out the link. Check out the link in the description of this video to check out his podcast. They talk about some lifestyle things, some social things. Check it out. He's one of the co-hosts of that show. I have with me the one and only Jus Had. Jus Had is here, ladies and gentlemen, from the Because We Are podcast. What's going on, bro? How's it going?
What's going on, UnclefOOlio? How are you, man? It's a good day. It's a good time to be a Knicks fan right now, man.
Of course. As always, it's my pleasure to have you on. Definitely a big fan of your podcast. You talk about some lifestyle things, some social things. So I think a lot of people who want to break from the sports thing can definitely go to the Because We Are podcast and check out you guys' content. You guys do a really good job. So definitely, ladies and gentlemen, at the conclusion of this show, go to the link in the description of this video, check him out and his co-host. And they're going to talk about some things that a lot of us men can relate to. It's a three-headed monster over there talking about guy talk. You know what I'm saying? Definitely go check them out. I wanted to do this episode of the Kontroversy to basically talk about, some things that have been discussed recently with the team. My opinion, I definitely want to clarify my opinions that I've had on a post-game show. People have been calling me out, talking about this, talking about that. You know what I mean? Josh don't know what he's talking about. So we're going to discuss some of those people, right? And I have your comments all nice and pretty. I'm going to bring it out and I'm going to talk about it just to let y'all know I'm not playing around. You know what I'm saying? First and foremost, salute to the chat. Salute to everyone out there watching. Let me just highlight. Salute to Mighty Knicks, new member to the MBK family. Welcome aboard. I've seen you in the chat a bunch, but welcome officially becoming an MBK YouTube member. So we definitely appreciate that. So, Had, let me just ask you off the bat. Do you think the Knicks are back on track? So we've won after we lost 4 games in a row, whatever it was, or 3 games in a row, sorry, before Charlotte and the 2 games in the West Coast trip. We won 2 games in a row. So are the Knicks back on track in your opinion?
My opinion is that the Knicks weren't really off track, man. I think some of those losses are kind of easily explained. They were coming off the big overtime game against Boston, was it? That was so they were they quickly play 55 minutes in that game.
Yeah.
The
entire second half and the entire overtime period.
Yeah. I think really they just had dead legs for the last few nights after that. And so for the most part, I think they're exactly where they were going to be, especially after Jalen Brunson went down. Right, because Jalen Brunson is the engine. He's the one that sets up the offense. You saw a lot of Julius taking on more of the offensive load. We know he has trouble with doing so sometimes. So I really wasn't too worried when they started to lose some of these games. I mean, they're not going to be perfect. Every night's not going to be amazing. We have a lot of young players. Not everybody knows exactly where they're supposed to be at all times. So you can expect us to lose some of those closer games. So I don't think they were ever really off track. I'm really interested to see how the last 11 games of the season goes, because if they are who I believe they are, I think we're actually going to end up in a really good spot. I can see them going, 7-4, maybe even 8-3 over the last 11. So I think they're in a good spot.
Right. Knicks are 41-30 right now with 11 games remaining left to go in the season. So 7-4 puts them at 48, 48-34, and 8-3 puts them at 49-32. No, 30. 33. Sorry, no, 30. Yeah, 33 exactly. Right. So, I definitely could see that happening as well. Listen, the Knicks, I don't think they were off track. I agree with you from that standpoint, but I don't think it was tired legs. I just think this team was mentally drained out from what they were doing as far as their winning streak is concerned, the 11-game winning streak that they had. Right. I think Tom Thibodeau, has often been criticized for running these players into the ground every team he's been with. I don't think that's the issue with this team. I just think they were coming off a high. And they just weren't mentally ready to play that game in Charlotte at home. I just think that's what it comes down to. Combine that with the fact that they lost Jalen Brunson.
Yeah,
I think that was a huge blow to what the Knicks were doing. Jalen Brunson has been fairly healthy for the majority of the season. Missed some games early in the season. So they pretty much didn't know how to adjust to playing basketball without him. And it took him a couple games to kind of get used to that and get used to playing basketball without him. And I'm going to talk about Jalen Brunson and for the next question. But that's pretty much how I feel about the Knicks. I don't think they were off track, and I think they're right exactly where they need to be, like you pointed out. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Knicks are going to be able to continue to play over the last 11 games. Everyone wants 50 wins. A lot of people wanted the Knicks to get to that 50 mark. For some reason, that's like a shining moment for Knicks fans and for Knicks Twitter. I don't think it's going to happen. I think worst case scenario, the Knicks go 5-6 or 6-5 over their last 11, which will put them at 46 or 47 wins, which is 5 games above 500 to finish the season, or 6 games above 500 to finish the season. So I'll be pretty comfortable with that, and that's going to be well above what I expected.
For sure.
Yep. Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, no, I definitely would have signed up for 46, 47 wins if that was the prediction earlier in the season. I don't think I made a prediction early in the season because I needed to see how it all kind of shook out. I needed to see what kind of Julius Randle we were getting. I needed to see what kind of RJ Barrett we were getting. I think for the most part, again, Quickly's emergence, right, as a 6th man of the year candidate, right? The inclusion of Jus Had. And then honestly, man, Tibbs making a lot of the changes that we wanted him to make over the last couple months has really, really improved the Knicks' chances. And I think the best part of it is that this is still the beginning. We're still trying to figure out exactly who they are. And I think we got a really, really good baseline. So it's just a really interesting point that we're at. And I don't think a lot of people would have expected it to look this way earlier in the season.
No, I certainly didn't. And I will gladly admit that and promptly admit that. Listen, I had the Knicks somewhere around 500. They're guaranteed to be at least 500 right now with 41 wins on the season. I had them probably just below 500 or even, if anything, a couple games above it, right? Which to me, I thought that's a mediocre record. And I thought this team would be mediocre just in general, right? But they have exceeded my expectations as far as the regular season is concerned. Moving forward, however, because the Knicks are proving themselves to be a good team, they haven't really been blown out in not many games this season. It's like a handful, less than that. You can count on your one hand, how many games the Knicks have been blown out. They have been in every single game, right? So that tells me this team is going to be competitive. They're going to fight. They're resilient. That game against Portland didn't start off great, but second half came around and then boom, juggernaut. The Knicks just couldn't stop scoring. It seemed like they couldn't put the ball in the basket, and they couldn't stop scoring in that second half.
42-point third quarter, man. That was pretty amazing. I mean, especially you're on the back end of the West Coast trip, the second West Coast trip actually of the season. Every reason to kind of we don't have it today. Jalen Brunson's still out. Every reason to kind of just fold up the tent and head home, and they just wouldn't do it. They just wouldn't do it, and that really, really shows you what type of guys we got in that locker room. So, excited about it for sure.
Gotcha. So the Knicks right now are in the 5th seed, right? They're in the 5th seed. I think they're a game above Brooklyn or a game and a half above Brooklyn or something like that. So the next question I do want to ask is, do you think the Knicks, if Jalen Brunson, let's say, knock on wood, God forbid, Jalen Brunson is going to be out for majority of these remaining 11 games, do you think the Knicks can remain in the top 6? Right? Do you think the Knicks have what it takes to hold off Brooklyn, who's been kind of up and down, but they're playing some good basketball right now, despite not having the 2 superstars? Do you think the Knicks are going to be good enough without Jalen Brunson to stay into that top 6 and guarantee themselves a first-round playoff matchup?
I think that's really the beauty of what we saw while Jalen Brunson has been out so far. Quickly is clearly ready to be a starter in this league. I think he's really, really shown himself to be a reliable player, reliable offensive option. He obviously defends 1 through 3 a lot of times on switches and things like that. So because again of Quickly's emergence, because Miles McBride has done so well as a secondary option off the bench, I think they're probably at least going to tread water over the next 11 games if it comes to Jalen Brunson not being there. But I got a sneaky suspicion that Jalen Brunson is going to make his return very soon. So we'll see.
Yeah, apparently he practiced today, or he participated in a team shoot around today. So I think he is very close to returning. I agree with you. I think the Knicks are going to be somewhere around 500. It's 11 games, so they won't be exactly at 500. They'll be either just above or just below it. I think they'll be either 6-5 or 5-6 over the last 11 games. And it's going to come to a point where the Knicks are going to lock in, whether it be the 5th seed or the 6th seed. They're going to lock that in, I think, somewhere with 2 or 3 games remaining in the season. I think at that point, they will start resting people. So you really can't count those as wins, right? So let's say the last 2 games, they lock themselves into the 5 or 6 seed. I think they will lock themselves in there. You got to look at the first 9 games of that. So I think the Knicks are probably going to be 7-2, probably 6-3 in the next 9 games, I think. Right. And the last 2, they don't play anybody. They probably lose the last 2 games. That puts them at 6-5. Right. And I think that's exactly what I predict for this team over the last 11 games, somewhere around 500. They're not going to win every game. They're not going to lose it either. But I think that's going to be good enough to lock them into a top 6 spot.
So I'm looking at their schedule right now. Obviously, we got the Nuggets tomorrow. Over the next 5 after that, we've got Timberwolves, Heat, Magic, and then the Rockets. Obviously, we should be able to beat the Magic and the Rockets. We should be able to beat the Timberwolves as well. The Heat always play us tough.
Right.
And there's no telling what we're going to get when we go up against the Nuggets. We beat them earlier this season, obviously at home. They're not that great of a road team. So can we, with Brunson hopefully coming back in that game, it should be a good game, right? But I also noticed that we don't really do that well on those Saturday early games, right? So I kind of noticed that as well, especially if we're coming off of a Friday night game. These guys, I don't know what it is about the practice schedule. Maybe it's the travel schedule, but they kind of lug it along early in those Saturday games. So if they come out swinging, then yeah, maybe we have a puncher's chance. But if we end up losing one of those games against the Magic or the Rockets, then I'm gonna kind of feel similar to you, where they're probably gonna go 500 for the rest of the way.
Right. So the Knicks are playing the Nuggets tomorrow at Madison Square Garden, 1:00 game, matinee game. Reason for that is the Rangers are also playing tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden, so they got to have time for the changeover from the court to the ice and everything like that. That's typically what happens when the Knicks are playing the weekend matinee schedule, right? It's that Madison Square Garden thing. But I do agree with you. I think they do struggle for the most part in those matinee games. They just struggle to find not shots down. I just say that they struggle to knock shots down, and minutely don't seem as in it as they usually are for the course of the season. I do want to say the matchup against Denver is very, very striking to me. Not only is Denver the number 1 team in the Western Conference right now, but they have Nikola Jokic, who is one of the top 2 favorites for MVP. And the Knicks struggle, particularly Mitchell Robinson. We're going to talk about him next. But the Knicks struggle against those European big men who are able to pass out of either the dribble handoff or the pick and roll. Yeah. They just struggle with those types of big men. I'm not sure if it's something schematically that Tibbs can't be able to figure out, but backdoor cuts usually hurt us, right? RJ Barrett normally has a terrible game defensively in these type of situations, and Mitchell Robinson normally does as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch the Knicks tomorrow in that matinee game. Hopefully they can be able to keep the winning streak alive, but I do think it's going to be extremely difficult for them to do that, considering who they're playing against and the time of the game. The Nuggets are a juggernaut. They're a tough team in the Western Conference for sure. Yeah. Let me just highlight some of these comments and welcome again to everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I know it's Friday. Everyone wants to get out and enjoy themselves or relax, just getting home from work. But I really appreciate you tuning in, watching the controversy with me and Jus Had from the Because We Are podcast. Salute to David L. He says, salute all Knicks fans. Salute to you, my brother. JJ, salute. Geraldine MacGyver, salute. David L. JJ. Oh, he's talking about the people. She's talking about the people that were before in the chat. Okay. Here we go. Ron Wayne, salute to the MBK family. Young Simba, salute to you. George Jones. Sherwin, my man, what's going on? Salute to you. Cormega, salute to Josh in the chat. DSJ Delano Steele Jr., salute to everyone in the chat. Salute to Josh, aka UnclefOOlio, the Kontroversy. Thank you, sir. Fabian Williams, salute. Let's see. William Thompson, all of our season losses have been in their games. We're so sensitive because we know we're a good team. Well, most of them have been in their games. Sacramento game we weren't into. The Dallas game earlier in the season we weren't into. And there's a couple other ones where the Knicks got blown out. But again, you can count those on one hand, right? The Knicks have basically been in there for the most part, but not all of them. Sherwin said he had this team at around 35 to 37 wins. I had him a little bit better than that, maybe 39, but we're talking about the same thing here. Sherwin also says Brunson is better than I thought. Randall is the all-NBA Randall again. Absolutely. D public enemy number one. Oubre, Hayward, and Rozier whooped the Knicks. No excuses because Brunson was out. Hornets didn't have ball. And I agree with that. I thought that was a game the Knicks should have won, right? Particularly if the Knicks did. The question going into that, because the Knicks won 11 games in a row, was, were the Knicks for real, right? Were the Knicks going to be able to shock some teams, right? And I think if they are getting labeled as for real and fans going to say, yeah, we can beat anybody, those are the games you got to win, right? So to your point in regards to when we play Houston and when we play Orlando, those are games that the Knicks should be able to win, no matter if Brunson's playing or whether he's not playing or what adversity the team has to go to. Those games should be expected to win if you think this team is for real or not. Point blank, plain and simple. So I agree with the public enemy. Let's see. Puck Knight says Cavs versus Knicks going to be a 7-game series. Okay. Listen, I hope so. I hope they pull it out. They're actually able to put it out. I'll pull it out. Let's get a couple more of these comments in here. JJ says, let Jokic get his. Can't let other guys like Murray and Porter get hot. That's a tough task. Easier said than done. And Kelvin Jones Sr. says, I predicted 53. I saw this potential since last year. It was all based on Tibbs' rotations. He's finally letting his team's talent show. Still a little Julius jealousy every now and then. He can't stop. So my thing about last season, and I want to hear your opinion on this, a lot of people were coming at Tom Thibodeau for not playing the kids. That was a huge narrative amongst Knicks Twitter and the Knicks fan base, not playing the kids, play the kids, blah, 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 which I disagree with. I thought the way Tibbs handled the rotations as far as just the young kids were concerned was exactly what they needed at that point in their careers, right? And now it's paying dividends. People were saying that they weren't developing last season. I disagree with that. I thought the Knicks front office and Tibbs was on the same page based on the players that they brought in and how they structured those contracts to allow the young players to eventually take over, right? Alec Burks, Taj Gibson, Nerlens Noel, Kemba, Derrick Rose even. They're all on 2-year contracts, right? 2-year contracts. And the young players are on their rookie deals, so they're going to be here for at least 4 to 5 years. So there was, I thought, a easy transition from the older players to the younger players because of how the contracts were structured alone. That alone, not to mention the young kids did actually get time. We've seen Quentin Grimes when he was out there when he was healthy, getting starter minutes at a certain point in the season, right? We've seen Emmanuel quickly. Mitchell Robinson's still young. He didn't get paid till this past offseason. RJ was getting a ton of minutes. So I just disagree with that logic. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about that, but I'd like your opinion on that narrative.
Absolutely. I'm definitely Team Tibbs. I was Team Tibbs last year. I think a lot of our struggles really just had to do with Julius. We went as Julius Randle went, and he obviously imploded. He had some things going on personally, and Tibbs, honestly, I felt like Julius was going to end up getting Tibbs fired, unfortunately, because of the way he was coming out and playing in those games. Tibbs is, yes, he's a rigid coach. Yes, he has these ideas and roles that he sets for people, and he's kind of difficult to come up out of that. But at the same time, he knows what these players need, in my opinion. As you said, I don't think that someone like IQ becomes the defender he is today without a coach like Tibbs putting that responsibility on him and telling him, yeah, no, you're not going to get the minutes unless I can keep you out there in the fourth quarter, going at the best point of attack wing or whatever the case may be. I think even Obi, right? Obi came in as a terrible defender. Obi is still kind of a terrible defender, but
Right.
he's as good as he's probably would have been defensively anyway, because he has a coach like Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Sure, we would like to see more, but if you gave him the minutes, does that automatically mean that the production would increase? Because I just doubt it. You know what I mean? Not saying that those guys are not talented, but I think the idea that Tibbs doesn't develop young players, every single young player that he invests in is performing. You know what I mean? So like I just don't get. Obviously narratives get spun, especially on like Knicks Twitter and stuff like that.
It's politics.
It's all politics. And then there's the avenue that you could go down of all the players that Tibbs supposedly banned or didn't give the right minutes to. Who's that player that went off and became like a star or something like that? I mean, the best you could say is Zach LaVine, but Zach LaVine got traded for Jimmy Butler. Like that's what you want to do. You want to take one of your young players with potential and maybe flip him into a superstar. That's what happened over there in Minnesota, right? So as far as last year is concerned, I really put most of that on Julius. And I think Tom Thibodeau is clearly one of the best coaches we've had in the last 20 years, if not the best coach that we've had in the last 20 years.
No question.
I think a lot of what the Knicks are doing now, a lot of what the Knicks did a couple years ago, has everything to do with the system that he has in place. He's basically turned what Reggie Bullock was into what Emmanuel Quickley is, right? He has these roles, and you move up based on your production, and it all makes sense. So I've been a fan of his. I'm going to continue to be a fan of his because he's proven that his system works. And if you give him the guys, you give him a Josh Hart, you get rid of a Cam who while he may have all the potential in that mold, really, Tibbs knows what he wants, and he knows how to get what he wants out of the guys he has. So I think we have to start giving Tibbs a bit more credit.
I absolutely agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And this is the way I've been thinking about this, going against that narrative that, play the kids narrative just because they're kids, this and that. I think there is a pecking order, an actual pecking order, not just in the NBA, but in any sport or any league or any team sport for that matter. There is a pecking order. And if there's a couple negative things that people are not looking at when you play kids too early, oftentimes, right? One, you risk putting them out there too early. The team is not performing, particularly in a place like New York, right, where they don't live up to their expectations, and then their confidence gets shot. Biggest example for this is Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox started out the gate immediately, right? Had a pretty decent rookie season, right? But failed to
Rookie
live
of
up.
the month. Rookie of the month in December. Yeah,
failed to live up to that, right? And then you have, conversely, a player like RJ Barrett, who's been starting and playing since day one, right? Who is still having some of the same development issues, and he's been getting all the playing time in the world. So I think there's that part. And then the other part, which a lot of people don't realize, I used to coach football. I coached high school football like 9 years ago, right? And I got an opportunity to coach, some seniors, and the team didn't perform, as well as they should have, right? But early in the season, what happened, we were getting blown out in the game. And I took out all the seniors, and I put in the young players at the end of the game. From that point on, we lost the team. Because the players who run your locker room are your veterans, are your seniors who've been there. And even though the younger players might be better than them,
right,
you risk alienating your entire locker room by doing that and just giving kids all the minutes, unless your roster is full of young players, right? Then you don't have any choice but to play them. But in that type of situation, based on what the Knicks did, having to sign all those veterans because of the 7 open roster spots that they had, I had no problem with the way Tibbs handled it. And the young players played. They actually played. So this whole narrative, to me, just kind of got out of control. And I 100% agree with you. A couple of these comments I want to highlight. Pudge Knight said fans force Tibbs to play them. And then Frank Sound came back and said fans don't force anybody to do anything.
Not a thing.
Right. As if a head coach listened to some fans. No. Pudge Knight, we are going to talk about Mitch in the next segment. He also said that Tibbs was getting himself fired. I don't agree with that. Sherwin says Obi is not a terrible defender. Obi's an awful defender. I don't agree. I think Obi's gotten better. He's taken some strides. Definitely not going to be, a lockdown Kevin Garnett kind of defender, right? He still has some work to do, but he definitely has improved from last year to this year. No question about that. He seems to be in the right spot more often than he was last season.
And I also just to interject really quickly, I also think he takes it a lot more personally defensively now. You can kind of see him be a bit demonstrative when he gets those cuts. He's putting his head down. It's like, man, he knows he missed an assignment. You know what I mean? And I think that bodes well for a young player to kind of take stuff like that personally, because he knows what he needs to work on over the summer. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future when it comes to Obi Toppin, but I do believe that the player that he's going to end up being is going to have a lot to do with the assignments that was given to him during this period. Everyone can just be impressed by the East Bay in the middle of a game, or by the slam dunk champion, or they can ask for more, right? And I think sometimes as a fan base, we want a lot of these players coddled. We get excited by the shiny new thing, and we think they should just be given the tools, and a lot of times that is detrimental.
You can cripple them. Yep.
So, a kid like Jalen Green in Houston, he's gonna be great, sure. But, is he great today? Probably not. You know what I mean? So it's important that you have someone there that's gonna care about them enough to tell them no.
Right. I agree with you 100%. D Public Enemy says, don't front. Tibbs is about to be fired. He had no choice but to play the young guys. Tibbs was not about to get fired last season.
He wasn't about to get fired.
I don't agree. That was his second season. The year before, he won Coach of the Year. Last season, no one expected the Knicks to really do much. I mean, maybe get to the playoffs and get to a first-round series, and they came up just short of that. I mean, second year of a Tibbs, I just don't think that's the case at all, the Public Enemy. So I disagree with you there. Young Simmons says, no reason why the Knicks shouldn't go at least 3 into the next 5 games. Legitimate good teams find ways to win games. I think we have proven we have a legitimate good team this year. I agree with that. Pudge Knight says, this is so funny. Grimes' IQ do save Tibbs' job. Kill that bogus narrative. How can they save his job if they're not developing? If they're not developing, how do they save his job? Just shot yourself in the foot. Right.
Over the last 24 months, they haven't improved at all. They were always this. Nah, come on, man. Right. It's just not realistic.
Kelvin Jones Sr. says, I agree. We could have had Rookie of the Year. We'll never know. Tibbs was stuck in his own way. He wasn't trying to have no one telling him how to do it. What does Rookie of the Year mean? Like, what does that mean? Rookie of the Year. How does that help the team in any way, having a Rookie of the Year? Is that what we're really talking about? Having, come on. RJ played majority of minutes in his rookie year. He didn't win Rookie of the Year.
Sure didn't.
Playing time does not always equal development. I think it's the habits and certain stuff, the coach will do in the right situations. That is how you develop.
People treat those like they're synonyms. People treat those like playing time equals develop. How are they supposed to develop on the bench? There's plenty of ways to develop on the bench. Plenty, so it's just, again, that narrative is corny.
All right. And I just get a couple, one more. Let's see. Salute to Knicks Morning Brew. Knicks Morning Brew. Phil Porto is in the chat. Salute to you, my brother. I'm definitely going to be reaching out to y'all. So let me, definitely keep that in mind. Definitely going to be reaching out to y'all. Let me just, where the comment go? Here we go. There you go. Knicks Morning Brew Sports. Definitely going to be reaching out to y'all. Mets fan, Knicks Let's Go says, but everyone here basically wanted Tibbs gone, not me. I didn't want Tibbs gone. My big problem with Tibbs is the offense, and I'm going to address that a little bit later. But not the development, not to play the kids narrative that everyone was talking about. All right, so we got that out the way. I want to discuss Mitchell Robinson now. Mitchell Robinson came under fire from a lot of Knicks Twitter from a snap that he did 2 days ago, in which he basically hinted at the fact that he was tired of doing cardio. It's frustrating, and he kind of hinted that he wanted a bigger role in the offense. What is your take on what Mitchell Robinson did? Do you think he has a point? Do you think he's selfish? Do you think he's immature? And then I'll retort.
I mean, obviously he's a bit immature, right? But he's also one of, he's not that he's one of the younger players on the team, but he clearly likes social media. He clearly likes interacting with the fans. You can catch him in comments, you can catch him retweeting things that we post, right? He's active on Knicks Twitter. I also find it interesting that it seems that Jus Had and Jalen Brunson are also active on Knicks Twitter, but
right.
That's like another story. I kind of think there might be a thing with that. But Mitch has always been an emotional guy, right? I don't think it affects his production on the court. I think the things that he's talking about actually affect his production on the court, because he also did come out later and say kind of more, he elaborated on what that was really about. Yep. But yep. In the moment, he's young. He obviously, I don't think he should be doing that. But we've gone down this road with Mitch before. I mean, he just got paid. We clearly believe in him. We clearly, have invested in him, and he'll get over it. To be honest with you, I think these conversations happen a lot in the locker rooms. They just don't happen on social media. So, do I think Tibbs can include him in more actions? Absolutely. Right. We'll get into how Tibbs can kind of, mix up the offense. Obviously, I think part of that is because I don't think Mitch came in very healthy, right? To start the year, he seemed to have lost a step, right? The explosiveness was a little gone. He came in a little heavy. A couple of guys came in a little heavy. Yep. So he couldn't really jump as much. So I think the things that Mitch does well, obviously can help offensively, but it's not going to end up being isolating on the elbow. That's not his game. It's never going to be his game. Those dribble handoffs at the key can lead to more actions, absolutely. But he also has to take responsibility for that. He also has to be able to read defenses and find guys in other positions. And I actually don't think Tibbs would have a problem with that if he proved that that's something he was capable of. He's always talking about these things that he does in the summer with his trainers in Chalamet, Louisiana, wherever it is. He's got to show that stuff, So I don't think that's something that the coaching staff is holding back from him. So,
yeah, I agree slightly. I do want to say I don't think that Mitch is immature for this particular situation, even posting it on Snapchat or whatever he did. Right? I think there's going to be different personalities on the team. You know what I mean? Some people are a little bit more reserved, and some people are more, outgoing. And I think Mitch is one of those outgoing characters in the Knicks locker room. Even back when he was doing the little skits that he had him do, sitting down with Mitch or whatever. I forgot the name of it. Right?
The block.
Yeah, Blockness Monster or something. Something like that. People were saying he was immature because of that. And I just don't agree. I just think he is a personality that's very outgoing, very similar to Draymond Green in Golden State, right? Sure. Draymond Green has his own podcast for
all over social media, for sure.
All over social media. And Mitchell Robinson is the same way. He doesn't have his own podcast, but he's the same way. And I just think that is his personality. I don't think it's an immature thing. I do think he is correct for the simple fact, well, I don't want to say correct. I think if Mitchell Robinson, if we had a center, or if we utilize our centers better offensively, this team will be much more versatile offensively, in my opinion. I think that will make them better.
Yeah.
I don't think Mitchell Robinson is that guy per se. I didn't want if the Knicks can upgrade at center and get someone like DeAndre Ayton, I was all for it, because DeAndre Ayton is someone you can throw the ball down to. He got a nice little mid-range baby jumper. He can score inside, get to the free throw line, knock down his free throws at a way higher clip than Mitchell Robinson can. So I want the Knicks to upgrade in that regard.
Yeah.
I like the fact, and I appreciate the fact that Mitchell Robinson wants to be more involved in the offense, that he wants to basically showcase himself. But the other half to that is Mitchell Robinson, you got to be able to show something, right? There's times where you had opportunities, where you've had mismatches, where you can throw a little baby hook. You know what I mean? Let's see that. Let's see a drop step. Let's see some type of move. Take a jump shot when you're wide open. You know what I'm saying? Certain things like that. And he just been unable to show us that for one reason or another. So I think it is a little bit both ways. The point that I'm saying is I don't think he's immature for feeling the way he does.
I can respect that. And I think you're right. And I think the evidence that it's schematic as opposed to just him, is that Isaiah Hartenstein, who's not known to be that kind of player, plays exactly like that when he's on the court. So
Okay.
it's pretty evident that is how Tibbs has his centers being schemed out, and not necessarily them making, having the autonomy to kind of decide when they go for the bucket. I think other than RJ and Grimes kind of cutting and then maybe shoveling the ball over to Hartenstein, he doesn't really get that many looks either, and he definitely has an offensive bag, right? So it's definitely clear that it's schematic. Tibbs definitely needs to open that up a bit, but again, I think because of Jalen Brunson, because of Julius Randle, because of the way they play the game, as well as RJ Barrett, by the way, not just Jalen Brunson and Julius, but also the way RJ plays. You can't, it's too many cooks in the kitchen. It would be too many cooks in the kitchen. I actually thought for the whole time that RJ's been here that you can't have RJ, Julius, and Mitch all on the court at the same time. I thought they needed to stagger them a bit more. Jalen Brunson has alleviated a lot of those worries for me because he's so creative with the basketball that but obviously you see RJ has also had a down year, right? So I think if they were all performing at the highest level, somebody would have to take a back seat anyway. So it is tough. It is tough. I don't see where Mitch is gonna get his looks from, but he also has to understand that his value is not just in what he offers offensively. It's the way he offensive rebounds, the way he defends the paint. He has a lot to contribute, and I don't want him kind of devaluing himself, but just because he didn't get a couple of touches, he's not allowing himself to be shown at the highest light. I just don't agree.
Okay, and that's a fair point. Do you think that his comments, and just to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, so he did come back the following day, which was yesterday, and basically explained that, he has some mental stuff going on. He has a child on the way. There's a lot of stuff going on, and that he was just frustrated, and that's why he did what he did. That's a clear sign of maturity to me. For, first of all, a grown man to admit something like that, to me, that's maturity.
For sure. That was actually pretty, that actually kind of got to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
I really appreciated him saying that.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it kind of opened up or kind of gave us a little bit of a background as to what was Mitch really thinking at the time. A lot of people were trying to tie Mitchell Robinson not closing games over the, in the West Coast stretch when we played, Portland and when we played Sacramento, tie that to, what Mitchell Robinson said. I didn't think those two were connected at all. I just thought that the reason why Mitchell Robinson didn't play was because of a matchup thing. Another thing about Tibbs adjusting, right? But he provided that context about the way he was feeling yesterday, mentioning mental health issues, people calling him mature. He basically said, I'm not immature. People just don't understand what I'm going through. So that just goes to show you sometimes the fans can overreact. And I think when people say that Mitchell Robinson is immature because of these tweets, that is a clear overreaction to me, right? Because, they're not acknowledging that Mitchell Robinson is a personality within himself and that these players go through things. They go through things. They're human, right? So what I wanted to ask you was, do you think in any way, kind of already can kind of guess your answer, but do you think that those comments from Mitchell Robinson in any way would be detrimental to what the Knicks have going on?
Absolutely not, man. I mean, I honestly feel like this is a really tight-knit group. I don't think he said anything in those tweets or in those posts that he hasn't said personally to the guys in that locker room. So I don't think anyone took it offensively. I think probably the Knicks PR said, "Hey, you gotta clean this up." Obviously, we understand what's going on, but you gotta clean this up. I think he at least has that much trust because he even started saying other stuff after that, but that stuff didn't get retweeted. That stuff didn't make it around on Knicks Twitter, but he did have a couple of comments after that alluding to, I'm a little frustrated right now, guys. That's all it is, right? He came back later to clarify fully, but he had already kind of pulled back a little bit from those initial comments. So I don't think they're going to affect anything. I think Mitch knows that we're in a really good spot. I think he's ultimately happy of what's going on. Obviously, he's got his money. We're about to start a playoff run. So, I don't think he's like, looking out the side, like, maybe someone else to trade for me and I'll get some more
Right.
looks. I don't think that's the case.
I agree. And just another FYI to everyone, the Knicks had some media availability today or something like that, and they didn't allow Mitchell Robinson to talk to the media, right? Because they knew the questions were going to come. It's very customary for James Dolan and MSG to do that. So they shielded Mitchell Robinson from those potential questions, basically trying to die the story down, make it a non-story, so that Mitchell Robinson didn't have to talk to anybody. But let me get to some of the comments about this issue. Kevon Bergen says, I get it. He wants to do more. Mitch can start by getting better at the free throw line. I 100% agree with that. He definitely needs to get better. Now, I think he has improved since he's been in the NBA. He is much better this year, but still it's a work in progress. So I definitely agree with that. Geraldine MacGyver says, I really think he just wants to have a bigger role in the offense. Okay. So nice. Tibbs should at least run a few more pick and roll plays from him. He's capable of being at least 10 points per game guy. I mean, the 10 points go ahead.
I take issue with that. Mitchell Robinson doesn't really set great screens. And I've noticed that.
Oh, yeah.
I've noticed
that 100%.
He's not a great pick and roller. Like, yeah, it looks good when he gets the finish and he can dunk or he has the open lane. He sets picks all the time. They're not always clean. He doesn't always he gets a lot of offensive fouls when he does, again, Tibbs is not he's not an unaware coach. Okay. He's not ignorant to these things. We're going to talk about more of the way the offense kind of operates. And I have my own theories about that, but the reason why Mitch doesn't just run pick and roll with Jalen Brunson is because he doesn't set screens well enough, and it'll just clog up the lane. I think these are things that they've already tried to work through. They all have been here for years at this point. Mitch doesn't set great screens, so.
I think Taj Gibson was the best pick and roll or the best screener on the team big man on the team last year, and this year I think it's Jericho Sims.
Yeah,
I agree with that 100%. I've been saying that for a long time. Mitch is not a great screener. So that definitely solves that. Pudge Knight says he went to West. Okay, that's Deuce McBride. Brew Crew Sports, no harm in wanting a bigger role, and I think him getting touches could be good, but his timing and approach were the downfalls of the post. Bad timing can silence valid desires. So when would the timing would have been right? Earlier in the season? I mean, I just don't think like the comments are so outrageous that the timing actually matters, right? This is not going to be detrimental to this team going into the playoffs. This is not something, why is it detrimental now? You know what I'm saying?
I think because we were coming off a big win where we were down by a lot, and then we had that big offensive kind of output, and then he didn't play in the fourth. Like, so everyone else is happy. Everyone is kind of on a high. And then we're on social media. We're all celebrating the victory. And then our starting center is kind of, I don't want to say trashing our offense, but just has a problem with the way he's being utilized. And it's just like, again, I get it. As the Brew Crew Sports says, bad timing can silence valid desires. We all kind of experience that. You know what I mean? So I definitely that's where while I agree with you that it's probably immature is probably the wrong word, I don't think it was the best timing for sure.
Okay, I mean that's fair enough. I get that comment all the time after a win. I will come on here and voice my concerns, and Josh will say like, "Oh, Josh, it's bad timing." So I agree with that. I'll concede to that point. I'll concede to that. Thank you, Brew Crew Sports. Appreciate that. Mets Knicks fan, let's go. The big man is frustrated. Maybe feels he can do more on the offensive side of the ball. Yep. Keith Turner says, I'd rather deal with Knicks fans that be in these chats than the ones on Twitter. My God, they're nuts. I agree with that. Trust me, I see it every single day. William Thompson says he said he plays as he is allowed to, as if there's some perimeters around how he's penciled in. And I think Hard was saying that. Hard was saying the Knicks run their offense, but I think a lot of that is on him as well. So I don't want to just put it all on the team and Tibbs. I think some of it is on him.
Yeah.
The Public Enemy says if RJ doesn't pass Mitch the ball, he isn't getting any touches. Those passes are on alley-oops for the most part. The Knicks are not giving Mitchell Robinson the ball on the block saying, go get me a bucket. They're not doing that, right? His touches are going to come on alley-oops or offensive rebounds and putbacks. That's why his field goal percentage is so high.
And do we have eyes? Because he has had opportunities to post up, and they have been like, some of them go over the basket. Like he's not
Right.
he's
Right.
not that graceful. He doesn't have a lot of fluidity to his post moves. I mean, I've seen him work on them, but in the moment, he ends up rushing his shot a lot of times. And again, the coaching staff has all this footage, and I'm sure that they're working on it. I think maybe if Kenny Payne was still here, then we'd be dealing with a different level with Mitchell Robinson. But he has not shown to have that ability yet, and that's actually okay too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not Mitch is a successful starting center in this league. And I don't think there's any team, any coach or executive that would say different. He's a successful starting center.
I agree with that 100%. And Punch Night says false. He doesn't see that. He doesn't set screens because he doesn't get rewarded with an alley-oop. Now who's talking about false narratives?
Yeah, I sure hope who's bringing up
false narratives?
I sure hope that's not how he's thinking. That's crazy. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't think that's how he's playing either. First of all, I think the rest of the team will be able to see that, right? I think that would be a big issue in the locker room. I don't think that's the case at all, right? So that's a false narrative. That's the example that I'm talking about in regards to fans. When people say the media is toxic against the Knicks, it's fans. Fans are just as toxic as the media. I can't stress that enough. I've been saying that for years. All right, Hod. So second to last topic, because we are going to talk about the Richard Jefferson thing, so I'm definitely going to talk about that. But sure. I do want to talk about the Knicks offense. And I had some comments on the post-game show against Portland when the Knicks, one second half, they were able to explode. But my comments basically were in regards to how the Knicks offense is going to be able to translate into the playoffs. And I have concerns about that. Now, listen, I think the Knicks are a good team. I think defensively, they can be able to compete. They can compete with anybody. But offensively, I think that is wherever we finish in the playoffs, first round, second round, conference finals, the lack of offensive versatility is going to be our downfall. Specifically because the Knicks run super heavy isolation, right? And we don't have the shooters to complement that isolation. The Knicks are, I believe, 22nd in the NBA right now in three-point field goal percentage, and they're one of the highest isolation usage teams in the league. Second, I think, behind Dallas, right? Dallas last year, I compare this Knicks team to what Dallas did last year. With Brunson and Luka, this team has Brunson and Randall. And I'm not comparing Luka to Randall, so everyone get that out of your head. But Dallas, they run a ton of isolation around Luka Doncic, right? Yeah. During the regular season, they didn't shoot the ball that great. They were kind of middle of the pack, mediocre, 13th in three-point percentage. Come playoff time, they were third. And that style of play got them to the conference finals. The Knicks are 22nd right now in three-point field goal percentage. And even though Randall and Brunson have been tremendous in isolation, the Knicks don't have any shooters that are shooting over or anything close to 40% outside of from three, outside of Brunson, who's close to it, right? So that's my concern about this Knicks team, the lack of offensive versatility. In those games we lost against Sacramento in that first half against Portland and then even against the Clippers, the Knicks were unable to get the ball into the paint. I mean, they were just unable to get the ball down there, right? Settle for three after three after three, and they were missing and missing and missing. So I just see this Knicks team getting to a certain point during games where they can struggle from three, and I think that's going to be very important. And if you're not knocking down those three-point shots, you got to find a way to get easier baskets. And the lack of versatility, the lack of play creation to get people wide open, going to the hole, stuff like that, I think that's going to cost us, right? So even though I think the Knicks team are going to be competitive and they're going to compete, I'm concerned about their offense. So I just wanted to clarify that for everybody who was confused about that. What do you think? You're muted.
My bad. For one, Jus Had is actually shooting 55% from the three-point line since he's donned a Knicks jersey. Obviously, that's unsustainable. Those numbers will come down as the season goes on and into the playoffs. I really like what Emmanuel Quickley has been doing over the last, I guess, honestly, since January, probably. And Grimes is even coming around in the last few games, right? So are they streaking at the right time? Maybe that would be great, right? If those, because Grimes has not shot that well at all this season, right? He came in a little hobbled. Kind of, it seems like he's probably getting into the sophomore slump a little bit at this point. Has a few bad games in a row. A lot of people want him sat now, which I just don't agree with. So yes, they run high, heavy isolation, but I actually appreciate their half court offense because as like I think Tony had mentioned and Sim had mentioned during that post game, the ball slows down in the playoffs, right? You're going to need players that can get theirs. And in 2020, 2021, we had one guy who was capable of that. And now we have not only two guys, we have one of the best isolation scorers in the league in Jalen Brunson, right? And you had mentioned like, oh, I want to see if I want to see them do it in the playoffs. Jalen Brunson already proved what he can do in the playoffs. He did it last year at Dallas with Luka out, right? So it's not like he's an unproven playoff performer. Not saying that this Knicks team has the makeup of that Dallas team. It definitely does not. But again, he didn't average 10 assists. He did exactly what he's been doing on the Knicks in the playoffs against playoff West Coast teams. So as much as we have to worry about what other teams are going to be doing, they have to worry about us too. Because if we play the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're not going to be able to stop Jalen Brunson. They're not. They don't have in by proxy, they are going to have a difficult time stopping Julius Randle because they're going to have to pick their poison. So I like that matchup for us if that's the case. Obviously, Philly, we've beat them 3 out of 4 this year, right? So again, who are we supposed to be scared of? I just don't see it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that automatically means that we're going to, we're going to win and any of that. It's obviously you still gotta do it. But I think there's enough evidence to suggest that, again, Julius has returned to form. Quickly is a way better version of himself than he was 2 years ago. This is frankly a much better team. It's a much more complete team, and we have more reliable performers in that vein. So I'm not scared of nobody, man. Like I got a good feeling about their run this year.
Well, I'm not scared of anybody either, but I disagree with the notion that we've seen Jalen Brunson. Listen, Jalen Brunson. I know we've seen him perform in the playoffs last year. My question wasn't about Jalen Brunson per se and how he performs. I'm talking about the team offensively, collectively as a unit. Because the Knicks run so much isolation, there's going to be times where Brunson and Randle are going to be double teamed. They're going to be double teamed, right? And we've seen Randle against. Hold on. Okay. We've seen Randle against the double team. Right. And we've seen Brunson at the end of games. Remember that stretch of games that the Knicks had where they couldn't close the game out? Yeah. When it was Randle and Brunson on the floor at the same time.
Christmas week.
And Brunson was getting, they put, last time we played the Clippers, they put Batum on him. He couldn't do anything. And then we played the Lakers. And then Brunson and Randle tried to run a 2-man game. They put AD on Randle, LeBron on Brunson. Then the Knicks got them swapped. And then it was nothing the Knicks can do. Right. So I think come playoff time, teams are going to game plan against those guys at the end of games or just throughout the game. And the Knicks are going to need the players to knock down 3-point shots. We don't have the 3-point shooters to be able to do exactly what Dallas did last season. And that's my concern. Now, like you said, the Knicks can get hot and the Grimes can start knocking down 3-point shots. RJ can finally start and get back to that high and knocking down 3-point shots as an off-ball player. But I haven't seen enough proof to really feel like the Knicks can be able to do that. Right now, they can get hot, and I can be completely wrong. But the evidence is not what they've done in the regular season, right? And that's where my concern is. I'm not scared of anyone. I think the Knicks are going to be able to compete no matter what. But at the end of the day, whenever we go home, I think that's going to be our downfall: the lack of offensive creativity. And when the Knicks are cold from 3, how are they going to score? How are the Knicks going to score when they get cold from 3? You know what I mean? So that's just my concern about that.
I really think teams are going to have to pick their poison. I think for the most part, you can shut down the issue. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. The issue is really Julius. I think everyone is pretty comfortable with the idea that Brunson is going to be Brunson. Brunson has been Brunson this entire year. The issue is still, do we trust Julius? And I think we kind of need to be honest about that. That if Brunson is locked up, that means that Julius is probably going to need to be that primary scoring option. And I just think as a fan base, we don't really trust him all the way yet, which is fine. That's a fair it was rough last year. It was rough in the playoffs against Atlanta, but I think it's different being the primary and being the primary because someone else is, there's still gravity there. Right. So, just listen, man, we haven't been here before. So there's going to be questions, and we're not a championship contender. So yeah, 29 teams go home. You know what I mean? So we're not there yet, and that's okay. I think one thing that a lot of people probably responded to was you saying that if they lose in the first round, then none of this matters.
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
Hold that thought real quick. I just want to follow up by saying, let me just put some optimism out there because I am concerned, but I have reasons to be optimistic for this team in that regard about the offense. Emmanuel freaking Quickley. I think Emmanuel Quickley is going to be the biggest X factor. You say Randall, to me, I think it's going to be Quickley. I've never seen him in the playoffs or play heavy minutes in the playoffs, but I think that's going to be our biggest X factor. What I've always said was because of that situation with Randall and Brunson and how teams are going to gang up on those two and scheme the defense to basically defend those two in their heavy isolation, put the ball in Emmanuel Quickley's hands. We've seen what he can do as a facilitator at the end of games. We know he has the ability to get busy, get himself into the paint, get that flow of the game going, and kind of open things up. We know he can shoot the rock. Put the ball in his hands at the end of games sometimes, because then you can turn Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson into finishers. And I think those two of the best finishers in the NBA, right? So I think that's what I want to see the Knicks do at the end of games. So far, we've seen Emmanuel Quickley do it sometimes. I haven't seen it enough to say that this is what Tibbs is going to do, but that's a reason why I'm optimistic about that part. The other part is the second unit and Jus Had. Getting RJ going. RJ with the first unit, he's an off-the-ball player. He's a catch and shoot, knock down some three-pointers whenever he is hitting them. But in that second unit, when you get RJ in movement, when Jus Had's moving that ball around, pop, 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 and there's movement, that's how you get RJ Barrett to score, right? And that, to me, if the Knicks are able to do that with their first unit a little bit more, my concerns will be completely alleviated because then we have other ways to score. But I just haven't seen enough, in my opinion, in that first unit, that ball movement, that, my concerns are just there. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see. And like everyone's saying in the chat, Josh, you don't know what's going to happen. I know I don't know what's going to happen, but I have the right to voice my concerns, right? And sure. in regards to what you were saying, so ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this, right? I read a lot of the comments. So after this video, please leave your comment if you want to leave one. Let me know what you think. If you agree with myself, you agree with Had. If you disagree with myself or disagree with Had, leave your comments in there. I'm always going to pull your comments up. I have some comments here from the post-game show that myself, Sim, and Tony did after we beat Portland and came back in that win. And I had people coming at me from all outside the woodworks. I just want to talk about those comments. I'm going to bring them up on the screen, right? And just talk about it. Shibu Samuel, thank you for your comment. He says, look at Cleveland's record. It's 44 wins. At this point, you think if we made the Donovan Mitchell trade, our roster would look similar to Cleveland, and when we have 44 wins? Hell yeah. I would expect the team to have 44 wins. I would expect the team to be in a fourth seed or fourth seed or approaching third. Yes, I absolutely expect that, because guess what? Quentin Grimes and RJ Barrett and all these players that would have went that Donovan Mitchell trade, we don't even know who would have actually went in the first place. Those players are inconsistent. Donovan Mitchell is consistent, and that third ball handler that I'm talking about at the end of games, that could be Donovan Mitchell, right? The Knicks wouldn't have trouble scoring and knocking. They wouldn't have that because they have a player that can get busy on the floor with Randall, all NBA Randall, and Brunson. So, yes, I think I would expect this team to get to 44 wins. My expectations would be way higher than what it is right now. Now, I'm not knocking the Knicks for not making the trade. They didn't want to do it. But please don't sleep on Donovan Mitchell. The man scored 70 points in the game this season. He is the real deal, right? So, what do you think about that?
Nah, man. I'm sorry. I think
Mm.
it was more likely that we ended up in the position that we thought we were going to be if we made that Donovan Mitchell trade, which would have been closer to 37 and 39 wins. And I think
Wow.
I think it would have been a failure. I truly believe that. And the reason why is because yes, the offense, I think we might have had a top 10 offense if we had Julius, Jalen Brunson, and Donovan Mitchell. And I think we would have had a bottom 10 defense. Period. So you're still making the trade. You're still what the trade off rather, not the actual trade. I'm looking. I'm trying to see here defensive rating. This doesn't seem right. Cleveland Cavaliers are number 1 in defensive rating. That seems dubious to me, but okay. It's definitely not because of Donovan Mitchell. It's definitely not because of Donovan Mitchell. I mean, they got the Twin Towers back there with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. So
we got Mitchell Robinson. I think to me the Knicks defense suffered a lot because they didn't have Mitchell Robinson for a certain part of the season. But we have him. We have him, right? We have someone that's defending the paint, and I think we don't know who would have won the trade. Let's just say that. But let's say the trade would have been RJ plus Grimes and whatever. We still would have Emmanuel Quickly. We still would have Deuce McBride. For those who wanted to see Cam Reddish play with RJ Barrett being gone, who would have played the 3? It probably would have been Cam Reddish, who a lot of Cam Hive was like, oh, he's a good defender. Put him out there on the floor as a wing, right? So I just think it's easy right now for Knicks fans to say, oh, we don't need nobody. I say this all the time, bro.
For sure.
We don't need nobody. We good just the way we are. And then what happens? We play, and it's lining up. The stars are aligning. We play Cleveland in the first round, and then we don't win. And then that same scenario I told you about the role players not stepping up, knocking those threes, like RJ and Grimes not knocking those threes down. Donovan Mitchell has a great series. I'm just saying. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I believe the Knicks are going to go toe-to-toe with them. And
Donovan Mitchell might be out for blood, man, because Jalen Brunson got into him last year in on the West. So he might have something to prove.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I just think oftentimes we're looking at the regular season and what the Knicks won't have if they would have made a particular trade, and everyone's already saying they're glad the Knicks didn't make the trade, and then come playoff time, because I think that's when it's really going to matter. That's just my opinion.
Right? Yeah, no, you absolutely need playoff performers. You need guys you need that top end talent in the playoffs. And again, listen, Cole, please, freezing cold takes me if this doesn't come true. But the Knicks are going home. They're not winning the championship this year. It's going to bite them, right? Not having a star, tertiary star, however you want to place them as far as the ranking goes, but having that other guy is going to bite them eventually, whether that's against Milwaukee, whether that's against Boston, who knows? One of those teams is going to knock us out. That's just the truth. Right?
And there's the importance of Emmanuel Quickly. That's why I said Emmanuel Quickly. If Emmanuel Quickly takes that step come playoff time,
man. And he had a good playoffs against the Hawks. He did. It's just he wasn't ready. He was still his rookie year. He wasn't ready for that moment. This kid is different. I actually have that's going to be my favorite thing about the playoffs. I want to see what Emmanuel Quickly does. He loves that stage. He loves those moments. He loves the Garden, and I think he's ready. I'm not saying he's at where he's going to be, but I think he's ready to have some of those moments in the brightest light. So I'm excited.
Mark W says their spot to make a finals or get past the second round. Have we? Thought so. Second comment I want to highlight. Agree with Josh. We need another superstar. Cut down on the herbs, Tony. We would not get out the first round. We have Grimes and Obi that don't show up. Now listen. This whole thing again. Let's see. Let me get rid of this comment. It depends on the Knicks role players if they're going to be able to knock those 3-point shots down. I think that'll be our best opportunity to beat Cleveland if we play them in the first round, right? But I think you're right. We do need that other star. So thank you, Marlon, for the comment. And then here we go. Jared Eliakim Ben Israel says on the replay, Josh out. He mad annoying. Josh ain't going nowhere. Josh is here. He always going to be here. Get over it. And this is the final comment that I want to say. And everyone, I want, gotta, just let everybody know this one really irritated me because it's a whole soliloquy this person did. I can't even pronounce his name, but I'm just going to read it to you. Josh double talk a lot, but he really don't know what he's looking at half the time. Definitely not a real basketball analyst, more of a guy who watches basketball and has his opinions, but doesn't know how to break down what he's looking at. Cool brother, but he speaks like a woman. Cool brother, but he speaks like a woman who's been in an abusive relationship for a long time and now is with a good guy and doesn't know how to differentiate the difference. He wants to play both sides of the fence in his opinions, but wants to call out others for being optimistic, but objective as well. On the other, Josh wants to be pessimistic, but objective. The Knicks moved the ball tonight. They didn't run out of one-on-one, so I don't know what he's talking about. Like I said, he doesn't know what he's looking at. He's pitching hole in the Knicks based on what they didn't do most of the season, but fails to see their adjustments.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So I just want to say I appreciate the comment. I don't appreciate what you said, comparing me to a woman and all that. And I guarantee if I were to see you in person, you wouldn't tell me that directly to my face. But it is what it is. I try to be objective as I can. When I'm wrong about something, I promptly admit it. Like I expected the Knicks to be a mediocre team this year, and they've shown me they can be a good team. So I was wrong in that regard. My prediction was wrong, right? So I will promptly admit something. I am who I am. I am objective as I can possibly be. If something's wrong, I will promptly call it out. To some Knicks fans, when the Knicks are getting just a little taste of something, like when we won that 11-game winning streak, they thought the Knicks were never going to lose again. The Knicks might make a run to the finals. People were saying that stuff, and I had to basically calm them down and let them know that's not going to be the case. And of course, it wasn't, right? 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, or every time I say something on one of these platforms, someone always leaves a comment. It's like, damn, Josh was right. He was right. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really know how else to really respond to that comment. All I say is thank you. Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Anything you want to say in regards to that? I don't know what else to.
Not really, man. Let's just keep it respectful. Again, getting into what Richard Jefferson said recently about Knicks fans in the tunnel, and the Knicks fans said, "Oh, Richard Jefferson, you hate us, and Richard Jefferson responded with a confused look on his face, "Y'all hate y'all." Nobody hates the Knicks more than Knicks fans. Y'all hate the Knicks more than any other player does. And sometimes we take a lot of that frustration out on each other as fans, which is really, really just unfortunate, man. I mean, we all want the best for our team. We all have different ideas of what that means and what that looks like. But, sometimes it definitely goes too far. You know what I mean? I think we could have a discourse and different opinions and still, be able to have respect for one another, man. So unfortunate that happened to you, man. It's just there's no room for that, man. We're all here. This is a game. You understand what I mean? Like, this is literally a sport. We're supposed to be having fun, and we're having one of the best seasons we've had in 10 years at least. So chill out, y'all. Chill out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, listen, it is what it is. We can disagree without being disagreeable. I think that's what Had is trying to say. Like I always say, there can be 4 Knicks fans in the room and be 7 different opinions, right? We're all going to have different opinions about the team. I just have mine, right? Specifically about Richard Jefferson, Knicks fans have this notion that everyone in the media hates them, that the Knicks are just, it's a conspiracy and the media is conspiring against the Knicks and everything like that. And I just totally disagree with that. I've had drag out arguments with Sim, Tony, Steph, a lot of people in regards to that particular topic, in regards to the media and how the media treats the team. And I've always said that Knicks fans, the same toxicity that they say that the media portrays against the team, fans do it. The fans do it as well. And they create those same narratives. We've seen that earlier in the show, in the pod today, with someone putting out a false narrative about Mitchell Robinson not setting screens because he's not getting any lobs. That is a false narrative, right? So to me, I just think fans perpetuate the same narratives that they say that the media does, and it's the pot calling the kettle, in my opinion. So I don't have any issue with what Richard Jefferson said. I do think there's some analysts on ESPN who do go a little bit overboard when it comes to the Knicks. But quite frankly, the team has been bad for years. They've been bad. We don't deserve, like the Knicks don't deserve any credit, or they have not deserved any credit based on the way they've been playing, right? So I have no issue with how the media has been covering the team, when the team was doing bad. Now that the Knicks are winning now, they get better coverage. Right? There's positive things that's being said about the team. And I've had arguments before where people would be like, well, they don't treat the Kings that way. The Kings have been equally as bad as the Knicks. It's New York City, ladies and gentlemen. It's New York, the media capital of the world. The Knicks, of course, they're going to get covered different than Sacramento. Case in point, Sacramento's having the best season that they've had in 17 years. 17 years. Second, third best team in the Western Conference right now. And nobody's talking about them.
They're not leading Sports Center. They're not leading First Take. None of that.
Exactly. So it's not personal, Knicks Nation. It's not anything personal. I understand. We love our team. I love the Knicks. Been a Knicks fan of my entire life. It's not personal. It's just that the team is bad, and they happen to play in the biggest media market. They're the number one team in the world's largest market. So it just comes with the territory. When the Knicks win, you think the Knicks, when the Knicks win championships, it'll be covered the same way they do in San Antonio? No, it's going to be way better, right? And the narratives are gonna be different. So that's just how I feel about that whole Richard Jefferson thing. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we can disagree without being disagreeable. So there you go with that. But hi, bro, I thank you so much for coming on here, man. It's been a pleasure. We went, right at our hour mark. So we definitely about to head off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put your logo on the screen. Jus Had from the Because We Are podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, definitely check out his pod. The link is in the description of this video. Hi, just give the people a synopsis on what you guys talk about on your show and some of the content that you have on there. The floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Well, first of all, Josh, thank you for having me, man. We get into our little battles on Twitter and stuff like that, but I definitely wanted to have this. Again, it was a very spirited discussion, right? We agree on some things, we disagree. So thank you again. Yeah, so for anyone who wants to check out my podcast, it's called Because We Are. It's available on Spotify, any streaming services that you might listen to podcasts. We also have a YouTube channel. Just type in Because We Are podcast. We do the first hour of the pod on our YouTube channel. The rest goes on Patreon as far as video, but the entire audio is available on Spotify. It's really just a lifestyle podcast. 3 young professionals, just talking about their experiences, just talking about their life. The other guys are a little younger than me. So we talk about music, we talk about movies, TV shows that are out. So yeah, please come over, hit us up on Instagram, and go Knicks.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jus Had from the Because We Are podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely check him out. Link in the description of this video. I'll also have his Twitter down there. If there's anything that you want to not debate him, but discuss in regards to his comments related to this show, please hit him up, send him a tweet. You know what I mean? Put some comments in the comment section of this video. I definitely read them, as you guys know, as you can tell. So let me know. Let me know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, the Knicks, 11 games left. I have them going 6-5, 5-6. Had thinks we can do a little bit better, probably 7-4, 8-3,
7-4,
8-3, 8-3, something like that. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Denver tomorrow, 1 p.m. Who you got, Had?
I got us. I got the Knicks. I think Jalen Brunson comes back. I think Jokic goes off. But I think again with the way the wing defended, RJ's been playing better as well defensively. I think they lost Bones over to LA. It hasn't done much but they lost a little bit of depth, and our strength at the moment is how well everyone is playing. So I think we come out and we get that one in MSG.
All right, I'm going to pick Denver. I think the Knicks should struggle with Jokic too much. 1 o'clock game. I'm going to pick Denver. I think it'll be a close game. Knicks won't get blown out or anything like that, but I'm going to pick Denver in a close one. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. It's another episode of The Kontroversy. I will catch you on the next Kontroversy episode. I'm going to get some special guests on here, and we're definitely going to keep talking Knicks. Keep it positive, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Friday, and I'm out. I'm gone, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.